Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. It's the last edition for the week, and on the program today, the conversation has been on latest developments at the Nigeria Forex market, and we've been looking at how the various markets have been reacting, investors as well as the economic managers as well. I've been having the conversation with the Chief Executive of Financial Derivatives Company Limited. He's also an economist, Mr. Bismarck Rwani, and Mr. Oji Udemezwe. He's a financial and management consultant. Both gentlemen are still here. Thank you so much for sticking around. So before we went on that quick break, I talked about the fact that we'll come back and look at comments from the coordinating minister of the economy. But before we get to that, let's quickly talk about the impact on individuals, for instance, now that this RDAS has been closed, and now that we see that the price for the naira to the dollar, it's put at an even level of 198 to the dollar.
Yeah. Now, the first impact was airline tickets. Well, airline tickets were already on the interbank market. So last week, airline tickets exchange rate was 202. Yesterday, came down a little bit. So compared to 168 about in December, airline tickets have gone up by 20%. So it's more expensive to travel. Apart from looking at all destinations, apart from only Dubai came down because there's a price war between Arica and Emirates there. All other destinations have gone up by about 20%. School fees of children have gone up significantly.
That's for the ones abroad.
For the ones abroad. So some parents are already beginning to think of bringing their children back and looking for the good schools here. Because of that, the schools here have an advantage and will improve the quality. Hospitals, some people are going for toothache treatment, for any checkup. They will now do all of those things locally. So the local facilities will improve because of this. So the collateral effect of an exchange rate adjustment is that it makes domestic producers and providers more competitive and better quality. And Nigerians will spend more money. More money will reside here. And gradually, like he said, that the erosion to the reserves will begin to slow. It's not going to stop, but it will slow down and give you opportunity. So when oil prices begin to pick up, which they are beginning to see at about $60, $59 a barrel, we can begin to see a recovery. And one important element, which nobody's talking about, is that your federal allocation to the state governments typically was you multiply the dollar they received by 168. You are going to multiply that dollar now by 199 or 200. So the state governments and federal governments will have more naira, nominal naira. So there'll be what we call money illusion, because that naira you get can only buy less goods. But in nominal terms, the states will have more money to pay their workers and pay. Also, the subsidy element in the budget will reduce because of reduction. So you have three elements. One, the devaluation and drop in oil prices. Two, the impact on state government revenues, which will increase, and then a reduction in subsidies. So generally speaking, the situation is tough, but not hopeless.
But Mr. Udemezwe, would this not make state governments to relax in terms of IGR? Because as much as possible, a lot of people have been campaigning that there should be less reliance on that federal accounts allocation and more on internally generated revenue.
Neither the federal government nor the state government can afford to relax at a time like this. The declining oil prices has already made it very imperative that we must seek alternative ways to finance our budget. It's compulsory. So, and if you study the 2015 budget, it's very clear from every indication that the federal government is trying to drive aggressively tax administration. Maybe not policy change now, but to administer the tax policy as it is. And I'm sure all the state governments will follow suit. Because once you don't have enough now to share at the central level, everybody will have to find its own level. They have to find a new level of equilibrium to get more funds in. So it's compulsory. So you see people having to get more data about which businesses exist in their states, and where can they get more tax from. That's going to happen. Already the federal government has said we're going to review all the pioneer statuses given to businesses that are being abused. People have enjoyed that status for years, and they don't account for it. They have said there will be luxury tax on some kind of goods like private jets, yachts, and the rest of that. That must be done. And just following what he said earlier, this is the best time to actually drive our import substitution policy in this country. This is the best time to encourage the production of the most, well-packaged local goods. Save for the impact of foreign demonstration effects. What you call, in economics, what you call foreign demonstration effect. People always loving to buy even toothpick, water that's taken from abroad than buying local. So, what I think we should do, both the Federal Ministry of Finance, the other promoting councils that we have, should see how we can help businesses promote local goods. Our local rice, our local cement, our local beans, what can we do to package them better and promote them? Let people begin to buy them. If you see the Honorable Minister of Finance, he always wears Nigerian dress. If we can all begin to do that in the food we eat, in the schools we attend, this is the best time to drive that. Because
even the hospitals will go to too.
Because this is the time local producers or exporters are encouraged to do more. In many economies like Japan, always even deliberately devalues to push exports and reduce imports. So it's just that we don't have enough export capacity to benefit. This is the time to benefit, to push export, non-oil export maximally. This is the best time.
I have a point here. See, economic agents do not make decisions based on economic patriotism. You see, you buy the quality of goods that you think gives you value for money. So even if you paint a car with green, white, green, if it's not a good quality car,
nobody's going to buy it.
Nobody's going to buy it. I think so. The emphasis here is on quality, right? Good value for money. Every economic agent will make decisions based on his best interest.
I agree.
And therefore, this is an opportunity for people to look inwards and improve quality. If your quality does not improve, nobody's going to buy your goods, right? If you like, you can dress up in a rafter or, and all of that.
But price can also be a major decision driver. If price is significantly very wide, people can decide based on that. Because when you have an economy where there's high inequality, people are not, if the product is price elastic, people will definitely respond to price changes. While I agree totally on quality, quality will always drive our consumption. But many times, if quality is not that, not the same, but not quite wide. And then the price widens, people may make decisions based on price. That's if considering price elasticity of goods and services. That can balance it.
Well, Mr. Iwani, let's talk about that interview that we read about, the one with the finance minister had with
William Wallace of Financial Times.
So she's projecting a drop,
growth to about 4.5% from 6%. Okay?
What does that mean?
What it means is that accepting reality, that because income has come down, both at the government level, income has come down at the individual level because devaluation is a reverse tax. That is, you have actually cut the income of Nigerians. So they will buy less in the short run, right? And substitute their decision making for goods from from the more elastic to the inelastic. In other words, they will go for necessities rather than luxuries. Now the supply of necessities will increase and the supply of luxuries will reduce. In the short run, economic activity will shrink a little bit, and because we're in the middle of an electoral uncertainty and all of that. So having said that, accepting the reality that the federal government is poised to reduce the benchmark price from 65. She said that will happen in the next couple of days. I think the budget is being discussed at the National Assembly. So
categorically now, the benchmark price for oil will drop because
definitely.
Before that's that's comment she made, we've heard so many times from the Ministry of Finance that there are different scenarios for different times if for any reason oil prices drops any lower than where we have it at the moment. And so does this mean now that the Ministry of Finance might decide to jettison all those scenarios that they've come up with?
No, the scenarios include announcing a new benchmark price. Angola just announced their own benchmark price at $40. Iran has a $40 benchmark price. The benchmark price is just a theoretical estimate on which you begin to plan, and then anything above that you keep as savings. What happened was that there were no savings. The savings have been depleted. So after this situation, what the Minister of Finance is saying that, look, we'll go to a more realistic level of benchmarking. We will accept the reality that because our income has shrunk, that our growth will be reduced, and that we work towards building that recovery.
Yeah,
And
well,
that's what you're saying.
But Mr. Udemezue, this doesn't still change the fact that the budget is still at a deficit. That's the 2015 budget.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to go deeper into deficit by the time the price of oil is reviewed downwards. I mean, the benchmark price is moved from 65 to maybe 60 or 55, as they decide very shortly. We'll see that. So it's going to actually, already we have a very, what I'll call one of our worst budgets, in the past few years, where capital expenditure, just gets only 15% of total budget. I haven't seen that. And that's in a country where we had earlier said that we are going to move from a ratio of 75-25 to 60-40. That's in the medium-term expenditure framework. And we have progressively, I've studied the budget from 2013, 2014, 2015. We have progressively increased our recurrent expenditure from, 72, 76, 84 now.
No,
all right? And then,
it's a crisis situation. You see, first of all, Harriet, a deficit budget is not a bad thing necessarily.
I agree.
Because you use a deficit budgets are counter-cyclical. If an economy is shrinking and in recession, you expand your deficit, just like the US having quantitative easing. So you use that as a counter-cyclical model. But what are you using the deficit to finance? Are you using deficit to finance consumption and petrol and kerosene, or are you using it to build bridges, refineries, and power stations? So that's the issue. Now, what the Ministry of Finance is saying is that, yes, we can live with the deficit, but we're going to shift the emphasis of the deficit from consumption and debt service and petrol to the more value-added and the real sector and development infrastructure. So that's what the rhetoric is saying. But the Ministry of Finance can plan and budget. It is the ministries and the state governments all together that come together to, then you have the results at the end of the year. The federal government of Nigeria is responsible for only 52% of economic activity because there are 36 states. So when you're looking at it, when you're measuring economic performance, you forget that the states also have their own part. So when you look at everything together, the economic weaknesses of this country are a combination of state and federal structural deficiencies, which are going to be addressed.
But the point I was trying to raise actually is that, the fact that we are still running this ratio of 84 to 15 means that we have not started applying the necessary discipline to cut down our expenditure. Before we talk about borrowing, of course, the federal government has announced a very, optimistic, borrowing plan of about 17.5 billion naira from China, from World Bank, and the rest of that to supplement for that gap. But why can't we, in our own, revenue we're going to generate, plan better for capital expenditure and less for, capital expenditure? Why can't we cut down the size of government, cut down all of the aids to the aid and all of those, cut it down at this point? This is the time to actually call a spade, and cut down all the bogus government we're carrying and begin to, within our own revenue, apportion more money for capital expenditure, even before we go to borrow. Yes, they're going to borrow 17.5 billion this year, hopefully. We hope we'll get it with the loan, when we ask for. But must we just depend on borrowing when we can? Because even when U.S. faced the issue of fiscal cliff, at the end of the day, most people started going from, debt financing to, balance sheet consolidation, raising more money, increasing through tax and all of that, tariffs, to get more money from within than going to borrow. It's always better, because the higher you borrow, he who goes at borrowing goes at sorrowing. We know the story of Greece and the rest of them. We can't afford to keep borrowing.
The story of Greece hasn't totally ended. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program this morning and sharing your thoughts with us. Of course, so in the coming weeks, we're going to see how investors continue to react to this latest development. But it's been a pleasure having you on the program, Mr.
It's well with the Nigerian economy.
Yes,
it's going to get better.
Mr. Udemezue and Mr. Riwani, thank you for coming on the program. Mr. Oji Udemezue is a financial and management consultant and, of course, the Chief Executive Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Bismarck Riwani joined me on the program this morning to take a look at development on the foreign exchange market. But thank you so much for being a part of it. Remember that you can catch up on this episode of the program if you missed it, and any other episode on our YouTube portal. That's youtube.com/channelsweb/videos. I'm Harriet Agbinyi. Bye-bye.